What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Glassless Traveled. My name is Mike Verivi, and I am the founder of the Fox Valley Whiskey Society. And today, I figured I'd come to you guys and do a little review of the latest Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. This is batch C921. This is the latest one that was just released this past September, although actually wasn't technically September, just due to the Heaven Hill shutdown and the strikes that were going on. They did release it a little bit later, but they kept the C921 moniker. Now, for those of you who are uninitiated, Elijah Craig is a brand that was started by Heaven Hill back in 1986, and the barrel-proof version of Elijah Craig was actually started in 2013 with batch C913. This is the most recent batch that was released. This one comes in at 120.2 proof or 60.1% alcohol. It has an MSRP of $65. Now, most places you're going to see it for $69.95. I personally picked mine up at the ABC store in Ocean Isle, North Carolina. North Carolina is a control state, which means that they cannot gouge you on prices. They have to sell it for the MSRP, and my MSRP that I paid was $69.95. Now, most places that you are going to go to, if they have it on the shelf, this year are probably going to be a little bit higher. Most places are probably going to be selling it for closer to $100. Now, earlier this year, just a couple months ago in September, there was some rumors floating around that the MSRP was going to be bumped up to about $99. Fortunately for us, that didn't actually happen. But again, most places that you go to that you find this on the shelf, probably not going to have it for the MSRP of $65. I was fortunate enough to pick this one up in North Carolina, which is just about 45 minutes north of here. And I also have a good connection with a good friend of mine back in Geneva, Illinois at Hammer's East Side Liquor. But today we're going to taste it. So the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof always comes in at 12 years. And generally speaking, it's always going to be in the triple digit proof. It's generally going to be about 120, sometimes up to 140 plus proof. It has a mash bill of 78% corn, 12% malted barley, and 10% rye, and comes from Heaven Hill. Now, I did sample this one yesterday. I already opened it and I kind of took some notes on it. And what I like to do is, after I kind of come up with my notes on everything, on my nosing notes, my tasting notes, the finish, kind of the overall, I like to read what other people wrote as well to see if maybe they got the same thing or if they got something different. And it turns out that my tasting notes are pretty much on par with what everybody else was writing as well. This batch is going to be a lot more reminiscent, if you guys are not a big fan, or we're not big fans of the previous release in May, the B521, which some were saying was probably the worst of the releases in recent years, especially considering that the May releases historically have generally been the best. B519 and B520 from May of 2019 and May of 2020, respectively, were some of the best batches that people had ever tasted from the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof series. B521 did not really live up to the expectation. It did come in at a little bit lower proof, and it was just a little too funky for most people. Fortunately, the C921, which is batch C, remember they come out 3 times a year, A, B, C, January, May, September. So A121 is batch A from January of 2021, B521 batch B of May 5, 2021, and C921 batch C of September 9 of 2021. So C921. So that's that code kind of broken down for you. I also have A121 and B521 down here next to me, just so I can compare if need be. But C921 for me, when I visited it yesterday and then again a little bit earlier, the nose was very, very reminiscent of the old, the fatter bottle of the Elijah Craig 12-year that was just discontinued some years ago. It has that really, really pronounced aged wood, seasoned wood, tobacco, kind of like walking into a humidor or smelling a cigar box. It's also fantastic notes of the rye spice, even though it is a lower rye content. You get like butterscotch, there's some caramel in there, a little bit of nutmeg. But it's that seasoned wood, that seasoned oak that really is pronounced on the nose. So if you do like those oakier bourbons, this is probably going to be for you. Fantastic notes of oak. Very, very restrained with the oak tannins, with the with the wood sugars that are coming through. You do get some of that barrel char in there, but really what you're tasting in here is not so much the corn, but you're really tasting that rye spice. You're getting a little bit of that white pepper, a little bit of a tingle on the tongue, but those oak notes are really, really what comes through most. Very, very enjoyable. Finish does have a little bit of that barrel house or warehouse funk, like when you walk in, if you've ever walked into a rick house or a barrel warehouse at a distillery tour, you kind of smell that seasoned wood. It kind of has that musty note to it. Some will compare it to kind of like walking into an antique shop. But the finish is very long. I mean, I can still feel it. I can still feel the warmth going down my throat, going all the way through my chest. That's what they call the Kentucky hug. That's a warm feeling that you get. But it's those sweeter notes that kind of pop through on the finish. You start to get more of those caramel chews, some butterscotch in there. But it's that nose that's just really, really kind of fantastic. Now, last night when I sampled this, I didn't really particularly think it was all that great. When I sampled it again about an hour ago, just to kind of like re-up on my notes, really started to enjoy this one. It kind of really opens up with that mustiness almost, that aged wood, that seasoned wood, chewing tobacco. Definitely shows its age. And for those of you who kind of like to have bourbon in that 8 to 12 year mark, where a lot of people say is that sweet spot, this is a really fantastic bourbon. Now, being in South Carolina, being 45 minutes away from the North Carolina border, which is a control state, I do have the benefit of kind of going into that state, going to the ABC in Ocean Isle, which is just right there on the border. And this stuff is pretty much readily available. This area of the country is about 10 to 15 years behind most trends, especially when it comes to craft beer and bourbon. So this stuff is really just sitting on the shelves down here. Back in Illinois, for you in the Fox Valley, this is probably not going to be the case. Now, I generally have luck at Hammer's East Side Liquor in Geneva. Generally a little bit higher in MSRP, but they are a smaller shop. They do have a really good selection. They have wonderful craft beer selection as well. And our friend Jessel Patel, he has hooked us up over the years and really helped us out with barrel picks and things like that. So I try to support him as much as possible in his location there. He will eventually be getting the latest release. When it's going to be coming in, I don't know, but I know he generally does not get a lot of it. You can also check Binny's, obviously, is a great place to go. They usually get several cases of it, but again, Binny's is one of those places that everybody kind of camps out for. This is one of those releases. It's not in line with BTAC. It's not in line with Pappy. It might not even be in line with some Willet or some Kentucky Owl, but this stuff is one that I always look for every trimester when it comes out in January, May, and September. And it's one that I really get excited about collecting. So a lot of other people are kind of on that same boat. So whether or not you're going to be able to find it at Binny's, you probably will. But if you get there fast enough, that's kind of the key. Another spot that you can try is our good friends at Malloy's. You can either go to the Glen Ellen, Lisle, or the Naperville store. And then, just kind of stopping into your local shop. There are some places that will just randomly get a case or two. Safeway might get a case of it. But definitely utilize the Fox Valley Whiskey Society group page, which is slowly growing back up. We still don't know if we have human intervention for the review of our page, but utilize the Fox Valley Whiskey Society group page to kind of ask where people may have spotted it, because it is on shelves currently, but not every liquor store is going to get it. Really glad I took a second approach with this, a second opinion on this, and waited overnight. Generally, I'll usually wait a week, but because this is so new, I wanted to do a second tasting of it today and kind of put my review out of it. So the nose, the palate, the finish, you get that barrel char, you get that aged wood, the seasoned wood. You get notes of like nutmeg and toasted spice. There's a very slight and faint herbaceousness and herbal note to it, that's just kind of really coming in the back, and it's just really fantastic. The finish is really, really what makes this bourbon, though. And for 120.2 proof, 60.1% alcohol, this does not drink nearly that hot. If you were to tell me that this is probably closer to 90 or 95 proof, or even 100 proof, I would probably agree with you. This is just very, very easy sipping. Would go great in a cocktail if you do like those oakier notes in a cocktail. But it's really just that oak note, that seasoned wood note that comes out in this that is just really, truly fantastic. So again, the MSRP on this, I found it for $69.95. Most places on the shelf, you're probably going to find it for $99.95 or above. Really, as far as what you're willing to pay for it, if that's a good price for you or not, that's up to you. I don't tell you what's a good price or not. If you find this for $120 or $140 and you want to spend that on it because you really got to have it, by God, go for it. I just so happen to find it at MSRP of $69.95. Elijah Craig, Heaven Hill will tell you that the MSRP is $65, but generally you're not going to find it. You're probably not going to find it that low. I will come back maybe later and do a sampling of all three from 2021, but this has just been, for the time being, C921 of the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Batch C, released in September 9 of 2021. C921. Guys, thanks for joining me for a little bit. Let us know, comment on the video if you found it anywhere, where you have found it, and especially what you paid for it. That being said, everybody, cheers.